This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Firing at ICE. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. 4 shot, 2 dead in Dallas, Texas this morning after someone opened fire outside of an immigration and customs enforcement facility. The FBI says anti-ICE messages were found on shell casings at the scene. The shooting victims were apparently ICE detainees. Unclear whether ICE agents were targeted as well, though no agents were apparently hit. DHS spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin tells Fox News.
Either way, it's monstrous, but I think this is something that Homeland Security Investigations is going to be looking at, as well as our partner law enforcement. We're going to get to the answers for the American people. Deputy
ICE Director Madison Sheehan.
We've seen a lot of protests nationwide at ICE facilities. We've seen a lot of violence at ICE facilities. This is not the first time that we've seen an attack even this year at an ICE facility. And so we will look at all motives, all areas of this.
Sheehan says inflammatory online rhetoric against ICE is playing a big role in increased attacks on agents and facilities. No shortage of rhetoric at the United Nations yesterday as President Trump paid a visit to address the world body. One big topic, Ukraine. In a seeming shift from earlier statements, President Trump indicated Ukraine can emerge the victor in its war with Russia.
3.5 years and they've gotten not so far, so we'll see what happens. But the other side can fight too, and they've proven that. Maybe it could be that Russia's a paper tiger.
The president met with Ukraine's president at the UN and said NATO countries should shoot down Russian military aircraft that enter their airspace. Trump also lambasted member nations for their open border policies.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham.
I think he gave the right message on a world stage. And, he told the world what they needed to hear. Up your game.
Meantime, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt wants an investigation into the UN after the escalators there stopped working and the teleprompter broke during the president's appearance. A dramatic end to the short trial of would-be Trump assassin Ryan Ruth after being convicted of attempting to shoot then-candidate Trump at his Florida golf course last year. Courtroom witnesses say Ruth then tried unsuccessfully to stab himself in the neck with a pen after the verdict had been announced. Criminal defense attorney David Gelman.
I'm surprised that it took 2.5 hours to get a verdict. I thought it was going to be more like 2.5 minutes, honestly. The evidence was overwhelming. And then you had Mr. Ruth representing himself. Never a good idea.
Outside the Florida courtroom afterwards, Ruth's daughter blamed the media for the verdict.
All your fault. Lies. Spreading lies about my father.
The 59-year-old Ruth will be sentenced in December. NASA says it plans to launch humans beyond low Earth orbit in February. If that happens, it'll be the first time in more than 50 years. The space agency says the Artemis 2 mission would send 4 astronauts around the moon and back. Today marks the 35th anniversary of See You at the Pole. The yearly occurrence features students gathered around their school flagpole for time of public prayer. Oklahoma Senator James Lankford.
It's a time for students to be able to gather on their own. They don't have to have adult leaders with them, to be able to go to their campus and just do one day publicly what they do privately every day. Pray for their teachers, pray for their parents, pray for each other, and quite frankly, pray for the nation. If there's ever been a time that we need students to be able to gather and pray for the nation, it's now.
See You at the Pole started in Burleson, Texas in 1990. Today, millions of students in dozens of countries taking part in that prayer event. The budget standoff continues in Washington over a possible partial federal government shutdown at the end of the month. Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Democrats are ready, willing, and able to sit down with anyone at any place at any time.
The Senate blocked a House funding bill last week. Among Democratic Party aims, Obamacare subsidies, and restoration of funds for public broadcasting. Lawmakers from both parties visited China this week, looking to avoid a direct U.S.-China military conflict through improved dialogue.
I believe we are both interested in peace and security in the world. We want to make sure that we have open lines of communication about that, and we have disagreements without question, but I think that makes it all the more important that we have open discussions.
That's House Armed Services Committee Democratic member Adam Smith. Divisive late-night host Jamie Kimmel returned to the airwaves last night, at least some of them. His first night back after ABC banned him over insensitive remarks he made about the assassination of Charlie Kirk included this apology.
You understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
But apology quickly turned to criticism of his critics, especially President Trump.
He did his best to cancel me. Instead, he forced millions of people to watch the show. That backfired bigly. He might have to release the Epstein files to distract us from this now.
Nexstar and Sinclair affiliates of ABC opted out of Kimmel's return. Markets where it didn't air included Rochester, Syracuse, Binghamton, Utica, Albany, Watertown, Erie, and Harrisburg. United Airlines back up and running after its second ground stop in as many months.
Last night's half-hour stop was the second in as many months for United. The airline blamed a connectivity issue. In early August, United cited a technology issue for a ground stop that lasted several hours.
At CBS's Michael Wallace, this latest glitch led to some 40 flight delays and 4 cancellations. All right, still to come here on the Noon Report. Reaction to concerns over a Tylenol autism link, rebuilding a flooded school, and a stalled state budget impacting Pennsylvania food banks.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, tracking some showers and rumbles of thunder on the way. I'll have forecast details in 10.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. Now checking stories making news where you live in New York and Pennsylvania. Plenty of reaction from the area medical community to the Trump administration's warning on possible links between Tylenol use by pregnant women and autism. Oishei Children's Hospital Buffalo president Dr. Stephen Turkovich tells WGRZ.
This is sort of a nuanced conversation, and much more research is needed. It's not a hard, definitive, yes, absolutely, there's a cause here. But I think that there's some reasonable caution, and we should always have people talking to their OBGYNs anytime they're taking any medication.
New York State Health Commissioner Dr. James McDonald tells Spectrum News the blunt warning from Trump hit close to home for him.
2 of my kids have different forms of autism. Obviously, there's a genetic link. One of the things I'm concerned about, though, is there is no single cause to autism. And when you make these simple declarations, quite frankly, it's just irresponsible.
The FDA has initiated a warning label change for acetaminophen or Tylenol over the possible but still unproven autism link. 2 floods in 3 years has meant no school for 4 years in the tiny town of Jasper, New York, not far from the PA border. Last night, the Jasper-Troopsburg School District gave an update on rebuilding efforts.
Really, our hope would be September of 2030. Our students are in there and we're back in Jasper.
JT Superintendent Jason Oliver says land has been purchased in the town of Jasper where they hope to build a brand new school.
It is near our school, but outside of the floodplain. We have a lot of boxes we have to check in order to finalize the purchase, which includes voter approval.
Oliver says a community group of 15 to 18 people is being formed to help design the new school building for the Jasper-Troopsburg Wildcats. New details about the case of a missing 13-year-old Rochester girl who was found living in an apartment with 2 illegal immigrants 600 miles away from her home in Chicago. The teen rescued over the weekend after disappearing on September 11th. Surveillance video showed her getting into an SUV with several men. Charles Salina with the U.S. Marshals Service says the suspects made contact with the girl through social media.
Parents just got to get into their kids' business, know who your child is communicating with, know the passwords to their cell phones, tablets.
This is the 11th missing child from the Rochester area that U.S. Marshals have helped safely recover in recent months. The 13-year-old girl, not the only underage person in that apartment in Chicago. According to Selena, a 15-year-old girl was in there as well. It's getting dangerous to deliver the mail in Rochester as well. Police there are looking into a string of robberies of postal carriers over the past few weeks. Veteran Postal Service worker and local union president Monique Mate tells WROC.
This is something I've never seen. I've been with the Postal Service 34 years. 25, I carried mail, and there was never fear of going anywhere. And this is something unprecedented.
Police say there has been 5 reported incidents involving assault and theft toward postal workers. A high school physics teacher from Naples, New York, who posted derogatory things about Charlie Kirk, has resigned. Patrick Freivald also taught robotics in Naples. A teacher for the Leroy School District placed on administrative leave over inappropriate comments following Kirk's murder. Controversy over Kirk comments also came up at last night's school board meeting in Auburn, New York, after some district employees there weighed in on social media. Public opinion seems mixed, judging by these comments to WSTM.
Teachers should keep politics and their opinions out of the classroom.
It seemed unfair. It's like we believe in freedom of speech, and it was on their own personal pages.
Board members did not address the controversy during their public meeting time. Growing civil unrest was the focus of a panel discussion at Mercyhurst University in Erie, PA last night, entitled Revisiting the Revolution, Civil Disobedience. These panelists tell Jet TV,
we need to have these discussions on small campuses and big campuses, small cities, big cities, because that shapes who we are as a nation.
We have such strong opinions. Because of those opinions, we don't do enough what I call active listening. We don't listen to understand, we listen to respond. And I believe that's what's dividing us.
The discussion focused on the parallels of political uprising today compared to what happened during the American Revolution. Pennsylvania food banks beginning to feel the pinch of the state budget impasse in Harrisburg. We get that story from Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
There was a town hall on hunger on Tuesday for food pantries across Pennsylvania that rely on state cash to run. But with no budget, no cash is coming in. Sheila Ulrich is CEO of the Pennsylvania Food Bank.
Some food banks are relying more on donated product. That's typically not the fresh produce and lean proteins that we want to see. Some are using private funds to purchase. I expect that when we reach about October 1, that's really going to be a significant pressure point.
The state budget is nearly 3 months late, and leaders still can't agree on the basics. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. Elmira College in New York's Southern Tier ranks high on the list by U.S. News and World Report of the best colleges in the country. In the Northeast, Elmira, third in value, second when it comes to social mobility. College President Charles Lindsay.
It's not just a student being able to get a job, it's a student being able to reach higher and attain something that's at a professional level that they may not have otherwise.
Overall, Elmira College came in sixth place this year for best colleges in the Northeast U.S. And a miracle at last night's Thursday Buffalo Bills home game, but not on the field. A fan from Rochester set to have surgery on his heart after he was saved by fellow Bills fans. Candace Dodge tells WHAM she was standing next to her father in Highmark Stadium when he experienced a cardiac event.
He was going down, and I just kind of held him in my hands, and all of a sudden, Bills Mafia just started recognizing that, something was wrong. And they're like, do you need help? And so they started screaming and yelling for help.
And a nearby nurse heard those calls for help and came running.
She happened to be walking to the bathroom. She caught the commotion and she came over. She recognized that he did not have a pulse, threw him down on the bleachers, and immediately began chest compressions.
That nurse, Danielle Johnson.
I just told him, I'm a nurse. Is something wrong?
Doctors later determined Candace's dad, Brian, suffered from a heart condition that affected his natural pacemaker. Without CPR and the crowd that notified that nurse, he wouldn't have lived.
Now I'll see a Bill's decal on a car, and it's like, yeah, those are my people, and because of Bill's Mafia, my dad is alive.
Brian currently at Rochester General Hospital recovering and awaiting a pacemaker. Well, it was baseball, not football, center stage last night. Here's Randy with sports.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Mark, it is coming down to the final few games of the season for Major League Baseball to see who is in and who is out. We know this from last night's action. Both the Yankees and Mariners have clinched playoff spots in the American League. The Yankees got a walk-off RBI single from Jose Calabero and edged the White Sox 3-2. That win, coupled with the Blue Jays losing to Boston, has New York just one game out of first place in the East and the best record in the American League. Seattle's victory has them just 2 games back of the best record. The Mariners pulled out a 4-3 victory over the Rockies thanks to Josh Naylor hitting a bases-clearing double in the 8th inning. The Athletics were 5-1 winners over Houston, and that kept the Stros a game behind Detroit, who also lost to Cleveland 5-2. The win by the Guardians now has them in first place in the Central, even though they have the same record as the Tigers. All right, let's go to the National League. The Mets got a go-ahead 2-run shot from Francisco Alvarez in the 8th inning, and they came back to beat the Cubbies 9-7. The Reds fell to the Pirates 4-2, so New York leads both Cincinnati and Arizona by 1 game for the final wild card spot. Arizona scored 3 times in the 7th and 2 more in the 9th. to walk it off against the Dodgers in their 5-4 victory. Other winners were the Orioles, Twins, Royals, Marlins. They beat the Phillies 6-5 and 11. The Braves, Padres, and Cardinals. So, that clears it all up, right, Mark? I will say this, the next few days are going to be pretty wild. That is a look at sports.
Thank you, Randy. Still to come here on the Noon Report, some biblical counsel on dealing with the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk assassination.
I was not quite old enough yet to drive a car, but I could get my perfectly healthy breast removed. I decided to go all in and to transition. And they really drilled it hard into my mom and dad's head that, like, you're going to have to choose basically between having a live son or a dead daughter. And it's the only choice that they give parents. They say it's transition or die.
That was Chloe Cole. Chloe was a victim of one of the worst ideas of our culture, that somehow people can be born in the wrong body. But thank God we can also know, even in an age of deception, that the truth is strong enough to redeem our lives. And Chloe came to know the truth, first about herself and then about the one who made her, God, by meeting Jesus Christ. Chloe's courageous story is told in the new film Truth Rising, which is now available totally free for streaming. Go to truthrising.com/Colson. That's truthrising.com/Colson. It is so important to know Chloe's story so that we can also know how to help others who are the victims of the bad ideas of our culture. So please tell your friends, family, churches, school communities about Truth Rising. Schedule a watch party. Do it together. Again, it's available anytime for free. Go to truthrising.com/Colson. That's truthrising.com/Colson. Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. More historians are recognizing that Christianity has been an unparalleled force for good in the world. How Jesus treated women, the outcasts, and the poor was revolutionary. Christian missionaries confronted the various evils of pagan societies, especially in the treatment of children, and also offered a better way. Historically speaking, in fact, the church can't not shape the culture of society, and it's happening again today. Just as in pre-Christian societies of the past, Christians today have both personal and social goods to offer our post-Christian world, this world to which we have been called. One of those things is theological depth and a source of meaning. Recently, I spoke with broadcaster and author Justin Brierley about the surprising surge in church attendance in the UK, something that many have called a quiet revival. He sees definite indicators as to what is drawing people back to church there. Here's Justin Brierley.
I mean, the way I've put it is when I've spoken, in fact, to some of these secular intellectuals who are interested in faith, people like Tom Holland, who we've mentioned, but others like Douglas Murray and others who are kind of these agnostic/atheists, but very attracted in some ways to Christian faith. They've often said, look, Justin, if you want to attract me to church, don't give me a sort of warmed over, spiritualized version of the secular humanism I can already get in the culture. You know, I'm not looking for just a sort of slightly more Christian version of what's already on offer. I'm looking for something very different. And you know, to use the phrase that Tom Holland's used a few times, keep Christianity weird, they say.
That was author and podcaster Justin Brierley. You can hear my full interview with Justin on a bonus episode of the Breakpoint podcast. Find it on our website or wherever you download your podcast. Embracing the call of God to this cultural moment is the focus of the 2026 Colson Center National Conference, May 29th through the 31st in Knoxville, Tennessee. The theme is You Are Here. It's a way to acknowledge that God has called us to this time and this place within his grand story of redemption. Register before November 29th to receive up to 50% off tickets. For more details and to register, go to colsonconference.org. That's colsonconference.org. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet.
All right, now let's check weather with Kevin.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for this afternoon. Variably cloudy, humid, a couple of showers, even a thunderstorm in parts of the area. High temps in the 70s, rather cloudy and muggy tonight and tomorrow with showers and a few rumbles of thunder. Low temperatures tonight, low 60s, high temperatures tomorrow in the lower 70s. On Friday, mix of clouds, there's some sunshine, chance for a shower. High temperatures Friday in the 70s.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm Mark Webster, and you're listening to The Noon Report on Family Life. From a terrible tragedy comes a tremendous opportunity. Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you so much, Mark. Good to be here.
Yeah, the tragedy, of course, was the assassination of prominent conservative Christian voice Charlie Kirk. It's an event that has reverberated in America like few others that I can recall in recent memory. Cultural moment isn't a label that should really be tossed around casually, but it does seem to apply here, doesn't it?
It really does. And, I think probably the last time we saw any sort of a unifying event surrounding tragedy take place has likely been probably 9/11. I mean, I know there's been other tragedies since then have done that, but nothing maybe quite to this magnitude.
Yeah. If I was going to contrast the 9/11 reaction to the Charlie Kirk reaction, one big difference could be divisiveness. Charlie Kirk was certainly viewed different ways by different sections of the population, and it's really a double-edged sword. There's a lot of nuance to this for believers and non-believers. Charlie Kirk was certainly not a perfect man. He didn't claim to be either, and he mixed politics with Christianity in a way that a lot of folks were uncomfortable with.
It's interesting. Those are the two things that people say, never discuss politics and religion with anybody. The reality is, especially family at the holidays or in any kind of a committee or meeting setting. But I guess that's one way that I'm similar to Charlie, is that those are my two favorite things to talk about. So he definitely went where few others were willing to go. And he did it in a way that I wouldn't say was perfect, but it was also in a way that was very genuine, and also in a way that highlighted his desire to see people engage civilly about these topics that really need to be discussed.
So many topics there. It's hard to even know where to first dive into the pool here, but we'll give it our best shot. Reacting to his assassination has been a mixed bag for Christians and non-Christians alike. It certainly is important, first of all, to remember that he was ultimately just one of us, not deserving of a pedestal, but I don't think he would have wanted to have been there anyway. You have to keep things in a proper perspective here.
Absolutely. We need to be aware of our own imperfections, and again, be careful of putting Charlie on a pedestal. We have to let our own imperfections keep us in a state of humility so that we lean on Christ, the Holy Spirit. That's what we need to lean on so that we can be empowered to have conversations with folks that we disagree with, but in a loving manner. We hear a lot of times people saying that, well, I'm not comfortable doing this. Fine, don't be comfortable, but your comfort is not a prerequisite to honing your skills on how to do this with the Spirit's leading. That's fine. Hardly anybody says, oh, I'm so comfortable doing it. No, most people are not.
Yeah, for sure. Well, certainly one of the most noteworthy things to come out of this was how his widow has reacted to this, truly being a Christ-like model during the widely viewed memorial service for her husband, saying that she forgives his killer. You see people do that, and it's just like, how? Where do you reach to come up with that?
Yeah, and amazing. And it's so important, I think, for us to discuss that, because try putting yourself in Erica's shoes for a moment. She's going to have, this isn't a one and done deal where she can make that statement and then all of a sudden her heart is free. She's in a very acute state of mourning and grieving. And like any of us would be if we lost our spouse, we'd be wondering, what does that mean for our future? What does it mean for our children? She's got a lot of healing to do. She's got a lot of recovering to do. And yes, while she stated that she forgave the young man who did this, we all are like, wow, that's amazing. We have to pray that she's still strengthened by God and by the Holy Spirit to be able to process through exactly what that means, because people are going to continue to look to her as an example of what forgiveness looks like. And so we have to pray that she does adequately process this and that she is able to carry on the responsibilities of the organization that Charlie started in a way that not only glorifies Christ, but in a way that is going to be used to help to grow and help to maintain this revival that we all kind of are like hoping is really starting in this country. And so being able to say this soon that she has forgiven him, I think is admirable. But I don't think Erica, if she ever were to stumble upon today's conversation, Mark, it'd be great. But I certainly hope she, and also all of us who are watching her as an example, don't expect her all of a sudden to not have days where she doesn't feel extreme anger, she doesn't have these emotions. And I think that when we talk about forgiving, we have to understand that there is a time of processing that still needs to happen within the context of Scripture and within the context of leaning on the Holy Spirit to help us to properly handle ourselves in these types of situations, is where we all need to continue to hold this conversation and to really come to an understanding of what that means, because this is a huge event. I mean, my goodness, how many millions of people around the world actually watched it on different streaming channels, in addition to the, I guess it was over 100,000 people that actually turned out between the two stadiums and the parking lot. And so just really, people are watching to really see what forgiveness means. And I think that we all need, as believers, need to remember that forgiveness is for our hearts to maintain softness in relation to the Lord, so the Lord can speak to us. It's about us maintaining our witness, and it's about us being able to maintain that conversation with God so that we can ultimately get through and, of course, lead others to Christ.
You're listening to Real Answers here. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about reacting the right way to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Yeah, her example really is a great example, not only for the world, but even on the individual level. This incident really shook a lot of Christian believers, too, and left a lot of them angry. And that's certainly, it's understandable. But how we handle that, you go back to Christ on the cross, forgive them, for they know not what they do. The ultimate example of how we should try our best to handle this sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just wonderful to have the opportunity. There's a renewed sense of enthusiasm and energy within the church, too, not only in this country, but around the world, so that we can really start to have the conversations that maybe we should have had for a very long time. And I think the Turning Point organization is ultimately blazing the trail on college campuses and among the younger generations for this type of thing to occur. I mean, we need to get back to a place in our nation, literally in all age groups, where we can have disagreements and we can have discussions with each other without automatically saying, oh, you disagree with me? Well, then you hate me. And you know, how dare you? And then slap a label, blank of whatever, phobe or whatever, onto a person for disagreeing. We just have to be done with that in this nation.
Yeah, and that has been a problem, it seems, where if someone says something disagree with it, that's been characterized not just as a disagreement, but as actual, almost akin to physical violence against you. And it's just, where do you go with that?
Well, I think we got to keep in mind, too, why we've gotten to this point. Why are we so violent? Why are we so vicious towards each other? I think excessive screen time. I think people listening to these quote-unquote journalists, which are really just opinionists that are inflaming people's emotions, and they know how to do it, and they are doing it intentionally because they want to get their way. And I think politicians are doing the exact same thing. And I think at this point, we need to understand that that's where this is coming from. And in order to try to turn that ship around, I mean, you know, I've made it known before that I'm not opposed to writing letters and asking my politicians to tone things down. And then remember, you're voting and supporting people with your screen time. Okay. If you're tuning into all the political pundits and you're spending hours and hours of that coming into your eyes, don't be surprised if you are having a hard time with anger. If you're having a hard time controlling your emotions and you're starting to feel that anger burning inside of you and rising up inside of you, don't be surprised, because what you're taking in eventually is going to come out. And that is exactly what they're saying happened to this man and others. You know, there's a trend. There's definitely characteristics of school shooters. There's definitely characteristics shared by the folks who have attempted to take President Trump's life, and now this young man. So what you're bringing in is going to impact your heart. It's going to impact your thoughts and your feelings, and then eventually your actions.
We spoke during the Easter time last year about taking a little Lenten break, if you will, from some social media, which I did, and I felt better for it, and I've really tried to maintain that. And when I don't, you spend some time, say on X or whatever, you can feel your pulse go up.
Absolutely.
You know, it has physiological implications if you spend too much time there. Part 1 of my conversation with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. In Part 2 next time, some sound biblical advice for Christians to be ready for questions from a culture seeking answers. Real Answers airs Wednesdays during the Noon Report or online anytime at familylife.org. Just ahead, honoring the baseball legend who famously observed, "It ain't over till it's over."
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. So unsettled weather is ahead over the next 36 hours. Humid air in place now, acted upon by a nearby front, will mean some showers and rumbles of thunder. Drier air will arrive in time, though, for it looks like a nice autumn weekend. Our call for this afternoon, variably cloudy, humid, couple of showers, even a thunderstorm in parts of the area. High temps in the 70s, rather cloudy and muggy tonight and tomorrow with showers and a few rumbles of thunder. Low temperatures tonight, low 60s, high temperatures tomorrow in the lower 70s. On Friday, mix of clouds and some sunshine, chance for a shower. High temperatures Friday in the 70s.
And finally at noon, from that Kevin to this Kevin.
Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch? I'd like that.
Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams, but it was New Jersey's Yogi Berra Field, where nearly 2,400 baseball fans, young and old, gathered to have a catch. A world record catch, in fact, the most people ever playing catch at the same time. Some of them telling WNYW.
I've always been a huge Yankee fan, Yogi and Phil Rizzuto and everything, and I got to spend some time with my family, and being able to break his record with my dad's been real great.
Yogi's kids thought it was real great, too.
I think he would be just tickled. I think he is just tickled, and it was a really great day.
This is a great honor. My mom and dad are looking down from heaven right now with big smiles on their faces.
The giant game of catch was part of a year-long celebration of the 100th anniversary of Yogi Berra's birth. Well, we'll catch you later. That's the world we live in for Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. As always, we thank you for listening. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.